Palchen. Roso yela conge padre wa rigbe doji shaolan go chan sara panden zave lama Rinpoche dage jewara pende den yon katin jembo gone jedon de kosong toje ngodo zado tene senja namba mala ngado delek sen shuai start telling ananso kere totap Thangtong Gyalpo seve capsula ta Chenrezig ngoso sen me dodon la pevyonga po kanjeng jon shandon ne jang keda chebeke tene totap chembo chungwari pyola ta ketang kita ti capsula thanchen sombo cheje ke longmanda bo yamari te indu samba ti pasun dosa la pe je ke chemo da wo tende yore in the total Thangtong Gyalpo, Gyamtso, Yeshe, Sobari, and Pemasi Bekeda. Then Simjin Kona, Per Kunzang, Young, Simjit, Yendo Samjila, and Pay Paint Tobo. Then it Mazi Bachik, then Jamba, the Yin, Rodon, Ya, Chambon, Zane, Tende Nankin, Gono Union Boy Yunkin, Chongari, that take a Kone Rang, Tan Dick, and Rodon Hacha Mate, that Thangtong Gyalpo, Kone, and they want it. Then it tell Devate, Kamapa, Jong Hachap Doshi, say Yap and Devate, taken on the Takari, Totem Davati, Tadi, Weekend tell a Shogi. That tell a Kecho, told a Yayan Dawa the Kadis, and a general Tangaran so Church Yankin Lama Kadi Totem Dawati, Shaggy Yodi. And Yankin Lama Toga Kadi Totem Dawati, Yangi Yodi, and I am. Che Cheshon Dawat de Davi Chenrezig Gonden Davochilla, then that take a lodge Chasama, Koranan, he younger than the so Domton Davoti Japan, that de la Sosugi, that Kundab Chanchog Sem, Tontamba Chanchog Sem, Tondo Tomji the Cone, Condolam Pel, Cone Condolam Pen, then the general Simjam Mamboche la. Pain topic that Tapiega Gon Song Jabajigata, Koran Tap Chepard and Papa today. Then it dead Tabuge Choga de Naran Soga telling that Thangtong Gyalpo Songbegi Choga, Sawa Gangal and Jaya Yodi, Te Tadulan Deva Shun Shayum Capsula, Jananga, Tande Dong Capsula, Chimambo Davochete, Dojete, I had two Yondola Checo the candidates and then Nankan Tatan Yamba Semjin Tomje Ta Paman Majuba Chicken Yomare, Koa Tomani, Tandala Toga Padula, then Nankan Tatan Yamba Semjin Tomje, the Paman Majuba Chicken Yomare. Tetabu Pama Semjin Tomje, Devan de Bashada, Dunhan de Bashada, Tetabu Semjin Tege, Deve Jugevate, Yantaba Dum Matu. Don't make it what the part may basa by Junsen Latin, then it's also get Samkin the Batang, you want any Mandawanda watch it and Kaduyana Younger Yodi. That will get Pama Simjet to shoot but the Tamjela Ning Jay. Then the Taring around Chenrezig Gomden de Gyamtso Lang, then it will get Simjet Tomjete, Papa Chenrezig. Shingamla Gopar Chegi, Yambege, Benan Dushindavam, Papa Chenrezig, the Yen Mebek Tatuk and Devil Lana Meba Topar Chavichet, Gogi, Sambek Dushinda was Jeki Tone, Tene Penata took Ta Sengo, December Sound the Mazi, Tene Chus and Kente, Nala Sing. Lamegi Church, Lamegi Tene, that Dengola Den, Yembek Capsula, Concho number Tapachi Yova Hinayang, then the Chelaman does had to Capsula, then around so good to Gona, Nyoma Mandoja, Shadan, Temanga, Tatoge, Tenekona, Semge, Dushinda Wotela, Pan Jone, Tene, Nani Chun Yembege, Tene, remote Samjiga, Tan, Mevanda Vochene, Tene Chilola left to Capsula, Tene Condota, Da Gawata, Tene Yin Mavanda Wata, Te Yendola Tangone, Tanegi, Cham Ninji, Tamanda watching Mevare, Somaina, Tene Chu Nyambala, Tumde Meva. Sugar Tom Koala, Tumde Mevanda watching, Tene Red over the thing, nothing pe Koran Kase, Yen, Dana Yang, Tene Koran, Te Songre, Penna. That Yomo Tandi to Genta with Jones, Yella Mini kind, now many Kabota with Jones, Yella Mendi Shabdota with Jones, that Yella Mendi Shabdota with Jones, the rain over your day. Tay in the capsule, that sugar nana carry yabate, Peche nana lose on my bate, that Chigella on it a negative. Lo Naya tell a shepherd and Papa Young, Arayan on it and the Gasuyos. Naranda was in and tell them, to Lord, son, and need Tangola living with those. Ni the Tamil Lemon go yoke there to Tini Mahakare, lower Shada, Hamagwanda with the head of those. Then the Chijak, tap long can on the Tini, tap Jackie Jella, Chick Par, Macheba, Low Tobando, tell a pay massive and Gomsa Chambo, pay massive and Gomsa Chambo double and tongue dot. And I thought, Chug taps and get the Jetang, Lojun double Ray or Marie, sing on a chick, that's Sanjay song, singing teller. Think Sabbath and Jashabonda was your body, Koran Sachi, Don Shada, Hamago, in a young. Niban Donyon, Capsula, Telejan, Turn Saba, that was it. Some Bandonyon, the Teleton Saba, that was a legend and dog yorde. Then they tell some the draw some the Mazep, turn Saba, that was the source of the half corny. The patient and a loose one that was mine, but on the same year. Gyamtso Payina, Tenning on a Tanege, Rana Yena, Tenning Yama Besem and Yuva Tepba, Semje Tomjela, Kaka Laba, some Mayin Bajiki, Cham Yingji, Chanch Sem, Chebar Jetoba, Semje Parabotela Yena, one a Taneg, Pin, Top to big Nupala Sobasama, Teta and Jung Yodi, the thing into Capsula, Nani, Chunyam Capsula in Ayaron. C'è il socio che la cacciava care io in attondo c'è una capsula tenina in ronde nica la paio tensi che goneta già sambangaran so che somba nakin che nyamne da botu che marete yena ya teksa je teki demanda boji teke te sa je nipanda boji socio che semjula tu tato yopa Tuta yoba some the magic, tension pio ge tone, telling on a tane, Jun John Tobanda boyina, telling on a tane, Sosuke, Chu, Nyamba, not turn your batan. Chu Nyamsa Lamba, la turn your batan. Sanja the Chanjo Simba Tomjig, took a gumbatan, tomba. Te tomba some the mazib, te tompik and zeba tenela. That's Semjin Gojamato, but Jawaji Batavi me somebody. Jawa Sanje jumped in the Nam Danton, Yazek Josemba Tomje Te, then the Yen Parapo, Nyom Beganala, Nebeg, Semjin Tomje Te, Jarabu Tankoa, Tom Mebane, Tapara, Machi Palankovig, Nell, Cham, some Main Bajagatone, then it Teta with Semjin Tomje La Pende, Lana Meba Dup to Payina. Then Semjin goes over in a Java, Zobu Sanji, Jomne, the Sage and Joseph, and go Tobanda water. Semjin go Matopa, then they got on shoes and a jig, Semjin Sawat into his Bachilla down. That Tom Jella don't want Tato, then it that he make going to that young one that was in. Then they can't schedule Sanjay Chu Yang about the Shaggy Yori. La Pega Language, then the social young and Dopata, the La Pusona, then it Jenny Kata, La Woman Soma, then it rang Benata, Nang that the Summer Samayina, then it got that Sanja, the Chanjo Samba some jiggy, yes and Joni, take the Bata, the Lama Jendo and Nangan, but same yet some jet and go at them, take some jig at home. Sanje Chanjo Samba Samjake Kande, Chan Dopata, the Dubi Insam and Dushet in Yamne, Sanje Chanjo Samba something, go quite about Davotam. Then a round get ten charge up by Yana on the Tane, Te Tavajik, Deba Sanje the Chanjo Samba Samjake Chetara, Deba Yendo, Te checking sending around to Kenny to it, Chanjo Sing Dambashur. Cheta Honja de Shigita Kane, the Bateta to checking in Sege Yore, the Kane, Seva, Tom, Mato, but Jake turned, take Koran, Kelling, Zurvik, Lam, Telamandone, Lega de Chata, the court don't let the one out that dead end over the tenny, Kaka Labatan, Samge, Samban, the mountain band of one, Tanek, Jamgenda was in that dog day. That day, that was mine by Jacob Tony, Tangananton Kovala, near the body. Nyomamba, Para, Machi Pala, your body. Tay in the capsula, Yacha, Yatambata, Sanja, the Chanjo, some Jake, Gumbata, the La, Dub Matapa in a young, Te Pepsi, Lam, get Chotela, no Sanda watch. Chilo Jamni Longa non Yanda Jilla Puma, someone that would use Zotoba Yenayam, Pe Masagi Chepat Pabadi, Tinitarim Yendola. Kone compared to Doveke, that Jopon Sawatan, Sanje the Chango Sambatam Jake, Gumbatan, Tomatan, Tombatam the Mazeba Jake, Tig and Totan, Nubala Ten, then the Ranga Semjing on Chavakari Chabina, telling on it on a Tala Tembo, Pain Tonkin, that was a younger, that the Toli Yanas, you know.
Go to Sanjay. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everyone. We are concerned here this weekend with the practice of Chenrezig that was composed by the Tibetan Mahasiddha Thangtong Gyalpo, who was himself an emanation of Chenrezig appearing in human form, and became one of the most famous Mahasiddhas of Tibet. He lived a very long time, but mostly in the 15th century. This was a time when actually iron suspension bridges were rare, almost unknown, even in Europe. But he built more than 108 of them in Tibet. And doing that and other things, he helped beings tremendously. One of his many compositions was the liturgy for the Chenrezig practice with which we are all familiar, called Benefit for Beings as Vast as Space, or Benefit for Beings who are throughout space. The commentary we're going to use on this text was composed by the 15th Jaon Kamapa, Kachep Dorje, and I will do my best over this weekend to explain it to you. The most important thing for you to keep in mind during this is that while it's the responsibility of a teacher or lama to teach as best as he or she can, and for students to listen as best as they can, the main point of studying and practicing a practice like this is to further develop relative bodhicitta, and by doing so, be of even more help to other beings. You've all seen the liturgy. Many of you have been practicing it for a number of years. In the explanation of it, there will be, of course, a lot of information, a lot of details. But the most important thing to keep in mind is your motivation for listening and practicing. Specifically, that all beings throughout space have, without any exceptions, been your parents. And that all of these beings want, just as much as you do, to be happy, and want, just as much as you do, not to suffer. Unfortunately, most of us do not know how to achieve what we want. While trying to achieve happiness, we mistake causes of happiness for causes of suffering, and therefore achieve suffering and destroy our own potential for happiness. And this is the fundamental inspiration for our compassion, that we all want to be happy, but mostly we fail. So when you listen to this teaching, think, I am studying and practicing this in order to bring all beings, all of whom have been my parents, all of whom wish to be happy but are suffering, to the realm, to rebirth in the realm of Chenrezig, or to the state of Chenrezig himself. And listen with that attitude. Also, what happens after listening is very important as well. While a Lama is teaching and students are listening, sitting on the cushion, we may all have a pure, even exemplary motivation. But there is still the possibility that as soon as we leave this room, our kleshas resurge, that we return to our previous habits of pride and jealousy and hatred and desire and stupor. And if we let that happen, then there won't even be the trace, imprint, or shape of what we have listened to present in our mind. If when we leave a teaching session, we just return to our habits of being angry at everyone and having no love and compassion in our hearts, then the process of listening to the teachings has been utterly fruitless. There are said to be three main defects in a listener to Dharma. That you listen with kleshas in your mind, which is like being a cup that has poison inside it. That you don't listen, which is like being an upside down cup. Or that you listen but immediately forget everything you've heard as soon as you leave the room, which is like being a leaky cup. Here I'm talking about the danger that we might be leaky cups, that listen avidly and then forget just as avidly. Westerners, by and large, are very diligent readers. Your society is a highly literate one, and I admire this. In contrast to that, if I try to read 5 pages of any book, by the end of the 5th page, my head is hitting my chest and I'm asleep. And whenever I wake up, I will have forgotten whatever I read during those 5 pages. Whereas I see that most of you just read one book after another insatiably. Nevertheless, reading Dharma books is not like reading fiction or history. You might read fiction or history once and get most of what the book has out of it that time. Dharma is not like that. You have to read Dharma over and over again. And each time you read it, you will discover more and more of its profound meaning. Another thing about repeated study of the same material is it allows the message to begin to penetrate your mind. And when the message really penetrates your mind, then you start to change. So that the information you acquire through listening or through study or through reading is not just something you know or have heard, something that you can carry around in your mouth, but something that has penetrated your heart, causes you to be more loving, more compassionate, strengthen your bodhicitta, and make you therefore more capable and effective in helping others. Whether you are listening to Dharma or practicing or actively working in the world, we need to maintain a mindfulness, vigilance, and alertness. We can't maintain a 100% perfect mindful awareness, such as is described in the teachings. But we can always make the effort to do our best to be as mindful as we can, continuously and under all circumstances. By doing this at all times, it will ensure that the study and practice of Dharma that we have engaged in will be fruitful. And furthermore, that our implementation of it and the way we live our lives will actually be in accordance with the intentions of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. There is a saying, the only way to please Buddhas is by pleasing beings. That means that the only thing that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas really care about is how much we can actually help other beings. The more help we are to others, the more pleasing, naturally, we are to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. If we carry around the Buddha Dharma as a mark or identity, but don't help or please beings, even if we can spout eloquent words and jargon of Buddhism, if we are still full of jealousy and arrogance and hatred and competitiveness, not only is this not pleasing to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it is actually deceiving them. Because we have all promised to emulate all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in their training, in their attitude, and in their actual help for beings. We've all taken that vow that begins just as all Sugatas have, and so on. Having taken that vow, if we then harbor jealousy and arrogance and spite and malice, we are, in fact, doing the opposite of what we have promised, which means we're charlatans, because what comes out of our mouths and what lives within our minds are the direct antitheses of one another. We may not be able to be 100% perfect in our emulation of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but at least we can all make the opposite, that we will be in accordance with the intentions of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, which means that they will empower our aspirations and our efforts to be of help to others, because these aspirations and efforts align with their own. And this will make what we do effective, powerful, and beneficial. So as you listen, please keep these things in mind.
Thangtong Gyalpo Panjo Chenrezig Gomde Dodon Kachem Sindi Nyundu Dodon Charging Shawa so start Toba Wancho and the Soma days, Command Kajab Dodges. Toba Wancho and the Soma the Candace and the Jatang that church of a choki and I love you, Yapo, then church in hand I was in there and Daman the Mambo days. Teta Maimpa, then Kodam Papa Chenrezig. Then also that Chenrezig Namto Yimba Thom the Mazi Bateke, Tatoke, Tupa Chimbuk Sa, said the Gausalan, Tatok and Devil Lana Mepeke Compam, Tatok and Devil Lana Mepatella, one Chubada, Zepa, then it was of Thangtong Gyalpo. Take a new and somewhat new the carrier, the Senate, that Jenny Chegla Mango, Jun the song you want to have Maimba. Then Panjo Chenrezig made those pepper in Balatin, that Chenrezig to top Thangtong Gyalpo like you on our motto. Then Chenrezig the Chegla na, take a Chegla na, send the Mambo somewhat of Maimba. That Chenrezig, Papa Chenrezig, then number two party to top Thangtong Gyalpo Yimbe Chena, that one new. That Tony told Jubanda with Chepat and Papa J. They saw the Lanyu Tang. Tayang, then the song of the Cadesson, and Panjo Chenrezig Gomde Dodon Kajamas, they sending you to Dodon charging Java Yoso, that Penna to top Thangtong Gyalpo somebody, Chenrezig Gomden Dodon Kajamari. Then tell her, Jonga Ban Kajab Dodge, Kama Bajonga Kajab Dodge, sending there, but then is Cindy Nyon Dodon Chadjun here Javate, Yoso, and the Somalis. And there are Temba Chienagasa.
Larry.
Don't know Chienagasa.
Lasso. So, the title of the Karmapa's commentary on this liturgy is a continuous reign for the benefit of beings, a concise commentary on benefit for beings throughout space. The title of the liturgy, Benefit for Beings Throughout Space, can be understood in two ways. One means that the benefit brought by the practice fills all space. The other thing is that the beings who are benefited fill all space. So you can think of it both ways. A meditation upon and mantra repetition of Arya Avalokita, composed by the Lord of Siddhas, Thangtong Gyalpo, as a short lineage. Now, the first word, the title, of course, is backwards in English. It goes the other way in Tibetan. So the first word in the title is, or set of words, is Lord of Siddhas. One of the things that makes this practice, the Chenrezig practice with which we are all familiar, special, is that it was not composed by just anyone. There are lots and lots of Dharma teachers of varying capacities. But the writer of this liturgy was a lord among siddhas, which means he was a Mahasiddha, and even among Mahasiddhas was extraordinary. And Thangtong Gyalpo wrote this not based upon a long or distant lineage of instructions that had passed through many individuals. He wrote it down as a transmission of a short lineage. A short lineage here means simply that Thangtong Gyalpo was Chenrezig in person. So therefore, you could say that he received this practice from Chenrezig himself. So in essence, it is a practice of Chenrezig written by Chenrezig. The practice's name is Benefit for Beings Throughout Space, and the commentary on it is called A Continuous Reign of Benefit for Beings.
Tene Chetange na Tapena and Dendege that Dotap Tense on the capsula. Ta Ramding Tassum song about it, Namukolojuta to Chevaina. Tating Tanga Lojuta to Chevaina, Takurum Kepajian is only so good Tajan and the wonder what you about it. Namukolojuta to Chevaina, that rap Yedam Flaggy Shasi, Mariko rap Chunik Damba on the tones, Pen and Papa Genesis and the Wajina, Penatata and Diggin Saint, that was all you capsula, Tuba, one show, save a capsula. Then it chunik damba awesome do Tony. Then it take it natural kind, but awesome the song you want already already. That then you dump like a shardy, said the tanding boy, and on the tie you dump like a mossy shardy. Shardy patella, then you dump like a no wonder what you can tell a 10-minute water. Tamaya ribbon, Nala, Kebas in the song we are the thing because of the Tande, that was in my inner, one and turn it up. That you get them on some do sick. Papa Genesis the year, maybe get that to Thangtong Gyalpo take it, this, me some Jilla Pendi Lana, maybe Dupi Chedola. That's all much it is.
Nowadays, just about anybody can write just about anything. But traditionally, the composition of a sadhana or a practice liturgy in the Buddhist tradition is supposed to require one of three levels of qualification. At best, the writer should have seen dharmata, the nature of all things. If not, they should have seen the deity with which the sadhana is concerned face to face, and in that way received the deity's blessing to compose the sadhana. And if not, they should at least be a great pundit who is fully knowledgeable of the five sciences. In this case, Thangtong Gyalpo met the highest criterion. When he composed this, he had already directly seen dharmata and therefore achieved awakening.
Sode Java Kunji Hingiche, Charger, Shavi Chenrezig, Kowaton, Chenrezig, Yemi Jason Gonandus, Kachap Dojake, Song Castle, Sode Java Kunji Hingiche, that to some Java Seda, Jeba Tamjaki, Hinjika Ranzo, Papa Chenrezig in Bechena. Java Kunji Hingiche, Charger Shava, Chenrezig, or Tetawake. Java Kunji Hingi Ranzo to kick the Dune, Chenrezig la shower de Batella Tene, Charger Shawan de Batella Tene, Chenrezig, Koaton to Tujakin, Koatone to Basing at the Tang, Koala, Neb Simjin Tomjete, Kovek Nene, Tabata Tomjin Chamber Comala, Goban de Big Tenet and Dembe Chena, Tenejin. Yeme Jason Granandus, Sati, Tabota, Yeme Big, Papa Genesis, Yeme Big, Sosalamaka, Matelandus, and the Somadendus. Dede Java Cone, Toja the Tenet, Chebaton Papa, de Tarin Dig Capsula, Sonia Carredi Sena, Java, some chicken, Nani Young, Toja the Tenet, Chebaton Papa, Chasing Koa Matong, Patula. Tene tingen dan la major war to some junje tapa ndoa rikto dembe tenejin chepa de Java nyime nje longte jesu nangwe ta tige nane mesio de Java nyime nje longte jesu nangwa se longte kare nangwa re sena ta phe simbu ke yote tene yonsu ba samjete tene ndro ke nyembo chorangi phe ya sakari sombata ke longte jesu nangwa la nga sorting domarji yor che drokabe jon se domarji yor se kausala ta pe sengete te papa Chenrezig dante yandol ta kora guru Rinpoche la sope ta mambo je po kanchen jon sala one Chenrezig namtro mambo pep te yandola ta kora to some mambo pepe yumsen la tene ta simju te sen don chug len da bo chi yoba chi zo to inside mato jege te mato po ge teni yo de pe ma se super ke lo ma chi ma do de na song dan da bo che ba yin do mar ji yo che do ga be ki yong yin song do wa xian do ne ja ta chue la tu bo ga be ki yo te ta bo te pa ba do yin to da gan de ne pa pa jen ne ke do yin to da gan de ne teni yabuke kore yebata lombota lotawata toto lopenda totota chewo pomoso na tobe zuke ngos tene de change lapen tole cheba nashi sanje sanghaji jabo yige toba malapa rander so cheben song ta cheba chungyo jena yang then our money pay my home, send and don't machine get done, me banda was in the Gyamtso Latin, rounder the ship and song, Kawa change John del Lagarjo took the chimbole, Yan the Mamik Bay, Mon John Trube, Chencho Nam Pape, Dukor Jedon Ta, Yeba, Savan Zepale, State, and Gyamtso Latin, Kara Chambege, Chencho Tamjekaya, then Papa Chenrezig, Dokola Jeba, Dupandimbo, Lasso Mambo, Chison Yoba, There Chenrezig may Tondo Chambatan de la Cande Jisungu Yorsena, Tene Chenrezig may Zus Chamba, Tobe Wancho, Thangtong Gyalpo Zawa, Dodon Kaja me Gomde Gyamtso Lensu de Sungu Yordis, that data when Gyamtso Lensu de Songa La, Yorwa Gyamtso Tang Simji Nguya La Gomba. Nga dawa, ye lam de chewa, give zawa hoa, penyong temba de ton toge goni nyamsa lensun dabo te sungu yote.
The text begins with a stanza of homage or invocation. The great compassion of all victors appearing as a deity, the Chenrezig, whose activity empties samsara from its depths, inseparable from the noble Lord or noble protector. To you I bow. In essence, Chenrezig embodies in a single form the great compassion of all victors or all Buddhas. And therefore, he is that compassion appearing in the form of a deity. His activity is that he empties samsara from the very bottom. And he is here paid homage to, inseparable from the writer's root guru, to whom he refers to as the noble Lord or noble protector. Now, in explaining this, he first introduces the deity by saying that Chenrezig's generation of bodhicitta, and therefore his ensuing activity, are superior to that of all other victors, all other Buddhas. And then he explains what this is, what makes his bodhicitta and his activity superior to all others is that until samsara is empty, until samsara is over, he will never rest in the samadhi of peace. In other words, he will never enter nirvana, but continues his activity of leading beings out of the 6 states of samsara, gradually and in some cases directly to awakening. And this activity is continuous. In particular, Chenrezig was appointed by the Buddha himself to be the guide of Tibet. And here, Kachab Dorje makes some somewhat disparaging remarks about the land of Tibet as it was before Chenrezig got hold of it. I hate saying these things because I'm not Tibetan, but first of all, it's the land of the red-faced ones. I don't know. I mean, I'm a lot redder than you. You're kind of brown, and I'm pink, which pink is a lot closer to red. But anyway, we'll go with that. A place that was especially difficult to tame. Now, Rinpoche said that what this means is, the implication of this is that only Chenrezig and emanations of Chenrezig could tame, could, so you would say, reach the hearts of the Tibetan people. the implication, Rinpoche said, is that until Chenrezig got a hold of us, we were extremely rough and tough, which has some historical. That the Songtsen Gyalpo ngon samne, Songtsen Gyalpo toka yana jana chatsang todo. The Lama Vegemari. Well, they were Tibet was the main military power in Central Asia until they went Buddhist. So there's some implication. There's some historical validity. So in any case, Chenrezig accepted the Buddha's prophetic instruction and appointment, and since then has taken hold of the land of Tibet, which means that throughout Tibetan history, he has appeared as countless individuals, emanations, monarchs, such as the Dharma King Songtsen Gyalpo, ministers, such as his minister Tonmi Sambota, translators, Indian pundits who came to Tibet, Tibetan siddhas, and even down to otherwise apparently ordinary men and women. Because of the tremendous blessing that Chenrezig has brought to Tibet continuously through all of these emanations and through all of his activity, the society, the culture, is so deeply marked by Chenrezig's influence that even babies will recite Om Mani Padme Hum without having to be taught to. So therefore, Chenrezig is the only universally I hate to say it, but worshipped deity for the Tibetan people. He is the destined deity of the entire Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Because of this, supreme individuals, emanated masters, have throughout Tibetan history composed all sorts of Chenrezig practices, some of them very long, some of them short and in between. Among these innumerable forms of Chenrezig practice, this one was composed by, as earlier said, an emanation of Chenrezig himself, the Mahasiddha Thangtong Gyalpo. And in explaining how to do this practice, there are 6 parts. The first is the preliminaries or preparation, which consists of taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. And then the stages of the main practice, which include imagining the deity, reciting his mantra, and then the concluding parts of the practice, transitioning from the practice to post-meditation so that you bring the practice into your daily life, and dedicating the virtue of it. And then finally, an explanation of the benefits of the practice. That's all.
Ta jege nani ta tangbo Gyamdo tang semje ke kod she ke yode na tela tangbo Gyamdo she yong kapsala Gyamso drove ke yor dabo ju go yode tin dun yin nang kha jazer
Chatik.
jatik me to tin ye long na Sabe Lama, ye maybe that's what the Sabe Lama can, Yamata, ye maybe. Papa Genesis on you. Papa Genesis, Chudu, Guangzhou, Sasam, Yawa Kundu, over. On some Yoba Tondo, Sate, that was your social gone, don't you know, Ganjati, Metoki Gila, that's what the Sabe Lama Kade, Yanayam. That Jatan, get Koran. Gonna start up the Lama Jayu, some of the Lama chicks and the set of your They in the castle, that Lama singing the Mango, Yode, Lamegi, Mambo Songu Yode. There's someone you know, that Koran, that same year, some jela, Pende Lana Meba topic on the Songu Yode, Chanjoku, same call a Songu Yode. Or take your dollar, that Koran taking that Koran same Nelo, what they could call a Songu Yode, Chaja Chamber, Zopa Chamber. That on the Chug Nello Mambo Songu Yovade, that day, that was something Lama taken none, young. That so gay, that yet down your castle. And Dick Lama Dicky, attending around the same tell Shepherd song. Dick attending around the same you gay, Yonten Condom person I wrong. Can't you go same number in Condom person I wrong? Chug Nello de Sajikana Kansam Chikona, Tom Topanda was the Sambata, that tell a ten, Tato me say that same Nello da was the Ngote topic Lama Joina, that tella sa topic Lama Jatamba Yona Yang, Jenny rang the same long more typical Lama Chick, send the Tandoga Yoda, that day that will give. That Kanda Seven Tree Yona Yron, Mena Yron, the social attending Lamandela Temba Yena, Decking all Rosamando, Sambeki Yeshe Yoba Lama Jig Tang, then in Papa Chenrezig, ye Mepa, Chala Yang, Chode Yikonjo Sasam, Yawa Kundi Jingo, Awesome Yendo, Yobat in the Jigtan, Donna Yo Samba Gum. Take a ton to la, Danig Thoro Chebeke, Tasosuke, Tatang, Nindam, Pamendove, Duberitok, Semjin, somebody. That's all the Yazi over the Tate Kare, said now. Getang, Tatangi Kondi Huba Tatola, then it Deva Mando Pati Yomari, and Doa took the same year some jet, Devan Donkin. Donkin Yimba some the Maziba Jig Penna. Aranton Jigning to hit Tella, Suzuki Gasan Disa, Yewa, Ta Yevo, Tondola Kanga till Devan Devan Dabin to hit and Yenam, J. The Gasa chicken to him, Evanda Waji. Penota, Yori, T. Because of the Tetabin to hit the Kona Georgia, Chetola, that Kona Magavan on it, that Chena, Checo, that was Yimbeki Chena. Jenny da in the one ya you wanted that dead already. Then it data in the Pamege, Dove Dubitat on the Reduk Semi carrying but the Yons the bottom J. Devan the Palanson, don't have Mendo Palanson, David Jogawa Dumishi Palanson, don't have the Jumigel Palmishi Palanson Bala, then the Tom J. Tom so yen ko the go some yupa chip gone Daja nam kowa donga di janso chembole jobek nunto that's solo yores and Lama Chenrezig yores Chenrezig ngave reto linkur je tepatang that Chenrezig yobe junzela ten. That yen Kanya Gogamati Lama the Yeme begin the Chiran, getting the Tabat the Tomjin Lamla. Good, the Rochi, some Begerezo, Linker Gaton, Tebatan. Jobs son him begin Dumbatang. Job Niepege, Yeshe Bate, Tatelan Doppet Tebatan with Teba Yip Tebasan, that in the Teban number some Sunguyodi. Tebek Goni, Tenetande, Tabuge, Ta. Dombati Zoko Yodi Tati Zaviki Pechanana Tawa Yena Sanje Chuda Sojin Chonamna Chancho Patu Dan Japsum Che Sangechi Seki Yodi that did that was taken some of down in the double jilla down. That they got Kona ranking and don't yap up that was mine, but then they go on the song over this. He he not to time cheddar mobile jebe. Jobson doing so they that were going to taunting against the Suzuki Gani. Tang cheddar mobile jebe song your body the Tandela Soso gigging your neck and only Tankate Mama Son Sugar at the end. I that choga zone. Memang book challenge don't you make up the Latima some that one don't make so your body. Jing che that the same gentle Papa took the chimbugi. Joe to 2 you, Yambegin, Yeshe Tembo Chas. That it I will get Yeshe Tembo Chas, I will get yes or la. Don't make the same gentle. Me you'll to share the tat, Tambo, Gyamtso the chat, yes or la, so you can don't make the same gentle Tamje, me or the chat. The Tamje, Dag Mara, Major Pachi, can maybe tension bodies. Dewa Dumdota, Donga Pando by Shata Yenka, Donga di Jumbashi, Dube, and Devo Hovatan and Song Donga, Third Tapo, Tatu Meba, Avan Denham, Dag Dewa Tamji, Cho, Lana Meba. Zob Sanje Compana, Keneja, Gobarcha, Teta Dupen Nubas. Tan Tatu Sanje Combala Tetam Gugin, that Gugin, that Tanda Teta or Gobar Chavala, Rala and Nubaya Maris. Tata Dal Mepe Dagam Papa Chenrezig Gomde Samon Yoms Langne, Papa and Choga, compound Tamba Dupte, that Papa Chenrezig combine Yanta about the Dup. Hova Chisi Pal, Roberton, Chenrezig, Namdana, Tomba. Jubar Geo, Yambe, Jumijan, Zumba Tabota, Tate, Kani Labasam, Maimba, Juma Maimba Seducasala, Zobjo Tan Maimba Teni, Koran Lunga Yesong and Jupa Chipigan to see Yopigoni, Teni Lama Chenrezig, Chenhara, Chancho to Sem Jebetam Jalangne, Statambotella, Jamro Tatadela, Chanjo Sem Jebetam Jalane. Dag Gomde Gibsonum General Penja Sanja Tabarko, Chiki, Ling Kayara, George Gomdo, Lola, Sangi Bachas.
Lasso?
In the Batalamdo. Sangi Bacha, Lama Chenrezig, Cole, was it tomatoes, that data were going to so to Sawatavum Capsula, Lama Chenrezig, Cone, was it tomato. Mayor Nona Pope, ten number did down, Donga Chani, Dewatan Dembarches on some. Teta with Jayo to the show, Rana Timbe, Tenny Rangi, you change your love song, some begin to hear. None over days.
The first of these 6 topics, the first part of the practice is the preliminary or preparation, which is going for refuge and generating bodhicitta. Now, the liturgy for this is the same refuge and bodhicitta stanza that we recited at the beginning of this teaching session. And when you practice Chenrezig as a group, you simply recite it together as one stanza 3 times, as we did at the beginning of this session. However, in analyzing the aspects of the practice here, Kachab Dorji divides it into its 2 parts, the refuge and the bodhicitta. So therefore, when practicing it as alone or as an individual, you can, if you wish, separate them and recite the first 2 lines, the refuge vow, as many times as you wish in order to clarify the meaning of it in your mind, and then recite the second 2 lines, the bodhisattva vow, separately. The visualization for these is, first of all, the imagination of the sources of refuge. In the sky before you, imagine your root guru inseparable from or in the form of Chenrezig. And he appears before you in an expanse of rainbow light. Now we say rainbow light. The correct term is spectral light, but the problem is that spectral carries the unfortunate connotation in English of specters or ghosts, so we have to say rainbow light. But it means light that is divided into a full spectrum. Amidst this rainbow light, surrounding Guru Chenrezig, are circles, also of spectral light, and a rain of beautiful multicolored flowers that is continuously following. Now, here, in visualizing Chenrezig as the source of refuge, you identify him with your root guru, which brings up the issue of who or what is a root guru. There is a saying about this. One may have 100 gurus who have achieved the bodhisattva levels, but among them, there will only be one who changes your mind. Every vehicle within the Buddhism has a different list of qualifications for what constitutes that vehicle's version of a guru or spiritual teacher. We find lists of such qualifications in the Pratimoksha of the Hinayana, in the Bodhisattva vow and the other Mahayana context, in the Tantric or Vajrayana generic context, and then in the contexts of the Mahamudra and Great Perfection traditions. But the point really is who changed you? Whose influence, whose instruction, whose kindness actually caused you to change for the better? Whose influence, whose teachings caused your relative bodhicitta and your understanding or realization of absolute bodhicitta to develop? Who pointed out the nature of your mind? And whether or not you've recognized the nature of your mind, the real point is who has changed you for the better? If you ask yourself that question, you will know who your root guru is. So that's the person that you imagine in the sky before you in the form of Chenrezig. And then imagining them, you reflect upon the fact that the guru, as Chenrezig, contains within them all of the three jewels and all of the three roots, complete in one form. And you then think that they're really there. Then those who take refuge in them or go for refuge to them are obviously you, since you're doing the practice, but not just you. Your enemies, your friends, and everybody you don't know. Now, why are your enemies mentioned first? It is habitual to us, perhaps instinctive, that when we go beyond caring only about ourselves, we still only care about those we're close to. Close to means those we know and like. We don't care about those we don't know, and we don't care about those we know and don't like. But this is a problem, because each and every being, whether we know them or not, and whether we like them or not, equally wants to be happy, equally wants not to suffer, and by and large is equally ignorant of how to get what they want. So therefore, in order to turn our limited scope of caring on its head, in order to reverse it, we put our enemies first. So especially around you, you imagine those you think of as enemies, and then those you think of as friends, those you like, and then all other beings, those you don't know, or those you know and don't particularly have any feeling about. And in short, all beings of the 6 states gathered around you as a huge crowd. And you think that all of you in unison, so speaking together, physically acting together, and thinking the same thing, take refuge in the Guru as Chenrezig. And the attitude of taking refuge in Chenrezig here has 3 parts, which correspond roughly to the usual 3 types of faith: the faith of aspiration or desire, the faith of wonderment or awe, and the faith of belief. The first here is an attitude of unreserved entrustment. So it means all of us who wander in samsara, which is like a huge ocean of suffering, have no other hope, no other person or place on which to place our hope, no other savior, no other protector, no other helper, no one else we can depend on than you, Chenrezig. And so the first attitude is one of complete and unreserved entrustment of your welfare, your well-being, and that of all beings to the Guru in the form of Chenrezig. So in a sense, that is an appeal or a prayer. I pray that you protect us. We have nowhere else to turn. And so the first thing is the attitude of unreserved entrustment. The second thing is the attitude of appeal to that place of unreserved entrustment. And the third thing, which is also needed, is belief. The belief that Chenrezig actually has that power. That if we appeal to Guru Chenrezig to protect us, he can and will, or they can and will. So with that attitude, you recite, thinking all beings do so simultaneously, the first 2 lines of the preliminary stanza, the refuge vow, which read, to the Buddhas, Dharma, and supreme assemblies, which means the various aspects of the Sangha, I go for refuge until awakening. Again, in personal practice, you can recite this, if you wish, these 2 lines separated from the 4-line stanza, if you want to just concentrate on the refuge first, as many times as you want. In group practice, it's paired with the second 2 lines, all together recited as a single stanza 3 times. And after reciting it, it's good to reflect upon the fact that from now onward, I and all beings are forever under Chenrezig's protection or refuge. So at the end, reflect reinforce the attitude with confidence. Then the second part of the preliminary is the generation of bodhicitta. While still visualizing Chenrezig before you, you now turn your attention primarily to the beings whom you visualized around you, and especially in the case of enemies and so forth, in front of you. And focusing on them, you think, none of these beings, whatever they may be to me now, has not been my mother countless times in previous lives. All of them have been my mother. Also, all of them equally want to be happy and want not to suffer. For the most part, however, they achieve the opposite. Thinking that it's going to make them happy, beings do what makes us miserable. Thinking that we're avoiding suffering, we actually avoid doing the only things that would make us happy. So therefore, while it's not what we want, as a result of our poor choices, we experience, as the results of our actions, continuous, potentially endless samsara, and as in particular, the horrific sufferings of lower states. So, reflecting upon that, think about what you want to do for them. And if you realize that they've all been your mother and that they all want to be happy and aren't, you will actually want to bring them to that happiness, which has to become a resolution. I will, no matter what, bring them to the state of supreme, perfect, unsurpassable Buddhahood. Because that is the only state of perfect happiness. So no matter what, I will bring all beings to that state. However, right now, I don't have the ability to do this. I cannot bring all beings to Buddhahood now. So, in order to bring all beings to that state, I will have to first achieve the state of Chenrezig. Then, having achieved his state, I'll be able to bring all beings to Buddhahood. So therefore, in order to achieve the state of Chenrezig, so that I can bring all beings to the state of Buddhahood, I will perform this meditation and mantra repetition on Chenrezig. And then once I achieve his state, I will continuously act for the benefit of others, bringing them to awakening exactly as he does. So in that way, you frame your generation of bodhicitta with specific reference to Chenrezig's aspirations and activity, and to emulating them. So, saying that you then recite the second two lines of the stanza. Now, there are two versions of this. Usually, when we do the liturgy, we recite the generic version. This verse was originally composed by Atisha. And in the generic version, we say, through my engagement in generosity and so forth, referring to the 6 perfections or 6 paramitas. Here, Kachap Dorje alters it to through the merit of my performance of this meditation and mantra repetition In either case, you simply recite on your own, you can choose, and in a group, you do whatever the group is doing. Most communities use the common one. And in any case, the second line reads, may I achieve Buddhahood in order to help others. So in order to bring all beings to Buddhahood. Again, in personal practice, if you want to, you can separate the stanza into two parts and practice them sequentially. In group practice, it's all recited as one single stanza. After reciting either the whole stanza as a unit or the second two lines as the Bodhisattva vow separately, you think that rays of multicolored light shoot out from the body of Chenrezig in the sky before you, that they strike you and all the other beings whom you have been imagining, purifying all of everyone's suffering and causes of suffering, veils or obscurations, and establishing all of us in perfect happiness. And then you think that Chenrezig melts into light and dissolves into you, blessing you. And that completes the preliminaries, the first part of the practice.
Tanyipa hla gomba ni, tanyipa hla Chenrezig gomba la thuku yori. Tati gomba la, da tamarpa neben thakor. To hingi yodu choben dodu, Gyamtso kapra sarves, da. Ranye tamarpa la yobache. Te thakor to ta hingi yodu choben dowa rito ki semjen se. Da de la. Medan Lami Latin tourism, Yawa Yeda Tundong and Sonsum, send the talk say you're the ticket and the song Yadon. Sabbatic, no, Kunzang Marva.
Oh, Lassa.
In the Tadi to Gyamtso capital survey, Sosu Jiwa, Rab to Jeb, Pemakapon Damaji, taken on a Sendotan, Jeb Dewar, David Jinkonia, Kama Tamame, Peting the La. Say, Gyalpo, Buzekan daughter, Karhin, Terva, Yawa Konyan, sort of jig the Duperando, Yawa some jig, sort of some jig the Duperando, shower gum, tell a one dave, Sertava, Tam, a banto, Choji, Javik, or Malu Pala, Cosson to Yevin, Chopper for Ya. Choji Java Jinko Samjela, woke up on the Toyum Kapsala, then the Java Samjela, Kosong took ye begging Chopper Pur. Dajan Samjela, Pope, there Samjik and Nazon did it Samjik Chang. Rick token net Samjela, Chape, Riru Sosu, Gedonga, the Sunny, Devala go, Pug Soji, Chenap, Austrian number 2, stand, Papa Soji, Choji Java said the Jabba Samjik Chenap. Austrian number 2, Gibu Sik, Soso, La Timbe, Janja Gate, that Sik de Ne Chone, Papa Chenrezig, Kondo Kana, Nima Shawata, Shendo Kashin, Sala Tewa, Kola Austri Kato, Gadin, Tobe, Java Hinkom, Chapan, Papa Nam, Robertson, Coan. Ma Ritoge, Nenam to Chape, Social Dunga Tamje Sane, Dewa Tang, Dembar Jova, Data, Simje Samjela, Jeben, Dumdan, the Denhing, that did our Mari Duk, Simjena Samjela Poyon, the Simje Samje, Dewa the Dembar Joan de Batang, Data Simje Samjela, Jeben, Dumdan the Denhing, that took Jeben, Dumdan the Denhing. Puja Bola, me Sewa Yendo, Dajan Rowanum, the Gyamtso took ye, Tad Chapage, Zumdang, Tad Chapage, Zum,
Chin,
Zumdang, Tang Denshin. Chenrezig to some good zipper, charge tambo in Tukala Tamo Javan zebba. Ye woman, Hekar Tuan Zimba. You woman, Pema Gabo, Dama Jeba, Dombotan, Jeban Zemba. Tar Capo, Sege Remote, Toyotan, Tajan Zation. Tarma be Shantabjin, Zambi Choy, Sele. Lai Rinpoche Tame Tasamji Deb Ujin, Nyenjin, Gurjin, Semoto, Ponjin, Chajab Yudubu Gera. Yeke Tinwa Geba Tawatan, Yebe, Jin Natobe, Goy Chakun Lebara, Yemba, Reda Tena Sade Papa, Sayin Do, Jenje, Nama Yamba Kapatan, Della Days and never should go into Kitange, Reda. Ge Papa Chenrezig Gyamtso Ranzo Yin Song Nedak Papa Ji de Taji make Yela Maramanda Yung Tande Sunji Kona Penda Bode Redak Nan intended that Tena Sada Pemasepe Chambata Hinji Yonkengi Redak Shepard and Papa Yingen dogs. That day in the capsule, that Chenrezig te Chambata Hinji Ranzo Yimbe Junsen Latin. Tenete Sonji Davochi, Petavochi Lantene, Sajin Dojin, Nama Yombara Kappa. What are totals Jimbe Lama Toto Trova? Without Sanje Obama Choke took Chalo Jin, Sotaji Temor Chope, Ujin Jin, Shami Doji, Jimotondo, Cuba, Tema making Rabdi Jeb and David Javiola Temba. To some the young children, Yuba. Jamne Concho Kunduge, Nor Yuba Sam, that Tabu Chenrezig Tella, Tenny, Chenrezig Tella, to some the Yuba, Cho Yoga, Sanje Yonsoba, Tamjete, that Tellan Dubike, Ranginto, Gomne, that Tabu Gom Sabaki Jesola, that's on Kajab Semjin, Jesu Pekan Dabatin. Tan della coda thick the dongam drama di yobari. Tell them Panjo Genesis, Casa was in Adinton, Zenuto, Chaji Tambo, Tajata, or making the pagan Tata and King Janji, the Zapa, Toyo, so Bambi, Ujin, Hami, Doji, Chidon, you. To mean our job, them, but your neck on the more churros and tati, tabote, sosuke, tontin, Kendolatati, thick tabo the song. Sheba Tal, Becao, Sheba Lashing, Quay number in the San de Pachau, send the Somalis. Tadella Kate, should you tell her? Te Tabuk, go Gombe capsula, salad and double, Monetan and Aranto, Meg number double, then you shut up number nana, launching, then it turned no token, I get in it, and what you done and come about it. Tandella. On that on the shake Pumbaki penda what is Yana Yaron. That on the line Jazrik penda what is Yana Ron de Chesal Nansan Dabo. Then Goda Sargento Tomba, Tongendo Sarve, Gerangi, Nanton Sondin you go. Then Dawa la Mambo Jigate Pete Yagari Jan Penata Gyamtso and Dawasha was that choke and Nan and Dawati Yudu Capsula. Then Chechon Kande, Yoba Yanaya, Yanso Chembo Yanaya, Dawachi Shagade, Jukshu Chungyong Jina, Dawachi Shagade, Pop and Nan, the Church Yoba Yanaya, Dawachi Shagade, Te Tado Latini, Koda, Kote, Chechon Kade, Yamba Yanaya, Sargento, Tombegarangi, Longento, Sarbegarangi, Koda Chunang and Dawata, Nando Sondo, Yuberangi, Jigi. Gom Gogade Mato Jigatini, Tape Masebe, Chembo, Teni Kale Capo, Jigo, Chembo, Davochi, Gomnatini, Hamun, Debu Capsula, Tende, Gombe Capsula, Teni, Gachin, Redu Capsula, Tani, Pupan, and Masar Lojut and Mamboyode, so that our days on that day is a Monday one hour your days. Theology to check it to the so no, that's on that.
That logic need the jig logic, don't jedor logic need.
Kante Sona Song.
Oh, yeah.
Danda de
That done the chick bar. Racho Gelojam, Shacha Mombo Gelo. That kind of. The main practice consists of two parts. The first is the initial imagination or visualization of the deity, and the second is the repetition of mantra in coordination with that image. To start with, after completing the preliminaries, you imagine that surrounding you are all other beings of the six states, as pretty much as you imagine them in the preliminary refuge and bodhicitta practice. So the six states are humans, asuras or anti-gods or demigods, devas or gods, animals, pretas or hungry ghosts, and hell beings. But now, for the main practice, instead of imagining Chenrezig in the sky before you, in front of all of these, you imagine that above the head, blossoming above the head of yourself and each and every other being individually, is a white lotus flower in full bloom. And this lotus has 8 petals, and all of the stuff in the center that lotuses have, pistil, stamens, and all that stuff. Resting on top of the stuff in the center of the flower, and of the same size as the center, so it covers the pistil, stamens, and calyx, which are in the middle of the lotus, is a disk of brilliant but soothing white light. Now it's the moon, but don't imagine the moon as a ball. Don't imagine it as made of stone or whatever it's made of, and don't imagine it as having craters. It's just a flat disk of brilliant but soothing white light, lying flat. So if you looked from the top, you would see the moon, and surrounding it the 8 petals of the lotus above the head of each and every person. On top of that full moon disk is, again, a brilliant white syllable Shri. And the Shri is, like the moon, brilliantly luminous, but without being glaring or off-putting. So it has a pearlescent quality. It's like as white as a pearl and luminous. And that Shri is the power to help others of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, embodied in the form of a single syllable. Now the Shri is standing upright on top of the moon disk. So having visualized this lotus, moon, and Shri above your head, and thinking that there are identical ones of these 3 things above the head of each and every other being, you then think that rays of light, like moonlight, shoot out from the Shri syllable above your head and above everybody else's heads. These light rays do two things. The first thing they do is present offerings to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Offerings that are pleasing, it says, to their bodies, speech, and minds. And these are every awakened being in every direction, above, below, and to the four directions and four corners, everywhere. But these light rays not only do that, they do a second thing. They also strike you and all other beings, purifying and removing all of your and other beings' sicknesses, demonic disturbances, veils, both cognitive veil and emotional veil or obscuration, all the imprints of everything we've ever done wrong, all of it is cleared away. Because these light rays strike each and every being of the 6 states, each of which has its own characteristic type of suffering, all of these sufferings are removed, and each and every being, including yourself, becomes happy. Now, when the light rays make offerings to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they automatically absorb their blessings. So after making those offerings and purifying yourself and all beings, the light rays are withdrawn back, and they coalesce or return back into the Shri above your head and above the head of each and every other being from which they emerged. As soon as they dissolve back into their particular Shri, because this is happening from the identically above the head of each and every being, as soon as the light rays dissolve back into the Shri in an instant is transformed into Chenrezig. So now, sitting on the moon disk above your head and above the head of each and every being is the Bodhisattva Chenrezig. He is, like the Shri, luminous white in color, like a snow-covered mountain with a bright sun shining on it. And so he's the light of which he's made, because he's made of light, actually includes the entire spectrum. So the light rays that emerge from his body are of 5 colors: white, blue, yellow, red, and green. And those light rays which continuously stream from his body and from the bodies of all the other Chenrezigs, above all the other beings, fill the universe. And these light rays continuously appeal to all other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to help beings, and themselves, the light rays themselves, continuously, again and again, remove the sufferings of each and every being of the 6 states as and if the sufferings reoccur. So those are the light rays streaming forth from Chenrezig's form. About his appearance. First of all, he is smiling. He's smiling because he is pleased with, which means he loves, without reservation, you and all beings. So he's not frowning in disapproval or grimacing in disgust. He's smiling at you and at all other beings. His demeanor, his affect is one of intense love, like a mother would have for her only child, except that he has it equally for all beings. So not only his smile, but also his gaze, and this is really what he's named for, is one of love. The way he is looking at beings displays his intense love for all beings. And he constantly looks at beings, gazes at beings with this love. He never shuts his eyes or takes time off or stops looking. He has arms. They're not actually that. Yeah, for some of you are new, so we need to talk about how to visualize many-armed deities. Yeah, there is a picture of him there, but with the forearm thing, okay, it's not like bugs. A lot of times people, they get this a little bit funny, especially when they say upper and lower, and they imagine that it's like an insect, so there's one set of arms here and then another coming below, and then it's not like that. There's one shoulder, but coming out of that one shoulder are two arms. So two of his arms are in front and two of his arms are behind, like that. But they're emerging off the same shoulder. It may help to see a statue if the statue is good. If they don't. It's not clunky, it's not funny, it's not like he has two shoulders and therefore he's got like a really, really wide, whatever you have here, carapace or something, and it's not like a bug with different things like that. It's coming off the same shoulder. It's almost as though you were looking at a photograph that had two different time exposures where the person hadn't moved, and in one they were like this, and in the other they were like this, except he really is doing both at the same time. Now, de kapso norbo salpo songmendo de tata de techen ge de nana ching ge chaja ge uso norbo nagios da bepa mangchao ge norbo gongios lama mangchao ge songios. So the first two hands, so the front ones, are with palms joined, which is an attitude of supplication, but it's not like this. There's a space in between, so his palms are cupped. And held in between them, this mudra is actually called the Dharma Dhatu mudra. And held between them is a wish-fulfilling jewel. It's a jewel that it looks like, usually like a huge egg-shaped or round sapphire, but like the biggest sapphire you could ever see. And it's a jewel that will grant all wishes. His second right hand holds, as you'll see in the tanka, a crystal rosary or mala. His second left hand holds a white lotus. He's holding it by, which is in full bloom, but he's holding it by its stem. Now, he is wearing some stuff. First of all, he has a shirt, and it's a little different from what's shown in the tanka. And the reason for this is that it's when you paint this, it doesn't show up very well. So for contrast, they usually give him like a red or a green or a blue shirt. But he has actually a white shirt or blouse. And it's of white silk with designs sewn into it with gold thread. beautiful designs. And it goes really just down to about the middle of his chest, similar to some garments worn by women in India and Nepal. But this one is not, it's not tight. It's kind of loose and flowing. He also has a beautiful, and this is usually green or blue, silk scarf that is, it's as though it's blown by the wind. It's not resting flat on his shoulders. It's kind of, you'll see it emerging from behind his head, and it's kind of twisted around his arms a little bit, but it's all kind of floating. The scarf is behaving as though he's in a zero gravity environment. He's not. He's seated firmly on the lotus and moon, but the scarf is not falling. He's wearing a skirt, and that's shown pretty accurately there. It's an ankle-length skirt of red silk, again with designs beautifully sewn into it with gold. And those are the major, here they just mentioned those three garments. So sometimes there are more, but we'll go with that for now. But now we turn to the jewelry. First of all, he has a tiara or crown. Tiara is better because when I say crown, people imagine something like the Queen of England wears, which is basically, it's like a thing that goes all the way around and a big hat with lots of silk and stuff like that. Or maybe you don't, but anyway, his is not like that. His is a delicately, none of these things were made by anyone, but if they were, a delicately cast and beautifully made golden circlet that goes the hairline, goes behind the ears, doesn't quite reach the back, and coming off of each side is a red silk ribbon, and those are tied in a bow behind him so that you can actually sort of see the red silk coming out behind his head, and then the rest flows down there. It's a circlet that has diadems on it, 5 of them. And those you can see, each is droplet shaped, and those are made of gold, and each of them contains a brilliant jewel. Here it's not specified. You can visualize the jewels of the 5 different colors if you wish. In some cases it's specified. The point is, the tiara and the droplets are made of the purest gold, like gold from the river Jambu, which is said to have the best gold if you find. In other words, perfect, pure gold. In addition to the tiara, he's wearing earrings. His earlobes are somewhat elongated, and in them he has earrings that are medium-sized, not humongous, but not small circles, perfect circles, with some decoration, some sort of filigree on them. And then depending from the circles, attached to the circles and pointing downward are also droplet-shaped diadems with a jewel in each. He has 3 necklaces. The first one is what it doesn't sound very nice, but it's what we call a choker. So it fits comfortably, not tightly, but comfortably to where his throat joins the top of his chest. And so it perfectly fits here. And then it's made of the same gold, and it has at least 3 strands of gold and jewels, sometimes 5 or as many as you want, depending from it, hanging from it. Then he has a second one. The second necklace goes down, hangs lower, goes down over his chest, over the center, and hangs to about the solar plexus. And all of these also have jewels strung on them. And then he has a third one, which hangs down below his waist so that it actually, since he's seated, it actually bends at his waist and ends in his lap. He has bracelets, 3 sets of them. The first set are above the elbows, and these are gold with jewels in them also. Second set are at the wrists, and the third set are at the ankles. And these are the kind that you'll see if you ever look at elegant Indian jewelry. They have strings depending or hanging from them that extend over the feet and so on. And you can, if you wish, also visualize that he's got golden rings on every finger and toe. But it's, if not, at least the 3 sets of bracelets. And then finally, the belt that he's wearing at the top of the skirt is ornamental. It's a whitish band of silk with a gold, with not just gold thread, but actual gold sewn onto it. And so you think of it basically as a belt of gold with a back of silk, but it's not clunky or heavy. And depending from it, hanging from it, are nets and strings of golden jewels. Nets means that they hang and meet, and strings are the ones that hang and don't meet. And if you look at it, you'll see that it's quite beautiful and elaborate. And that's all hanging down into his lap. Now, so those are the standard ornaments of most peaceful deities. So bodhisattvas like Chenrezig are often depicted wearing them. But Chenrezig has one specific garment that requires explanation, Rinpoche said. And that's he has a deerskin over his left shoulder to represent that he's the embodiment of love and compassion. Now, especially nowadays, we don't think of people who wear animal skins as embodiments of love and compassion. We think of them as anti-environmental criminals, or at least heartless scum and so on. Why does he wear a deerskin? This particular deer, some people say it's an antelope, some people say it's a deer. It's an animal called a Krishnasara. And a Krishnasara is, in legend, the gentlest of all herbivores. Herbivorous animals don't hurt many other animals, but Krishnasaras are the least harmful of herbivores. They don't hurt anything. So he wears this not because he's gone out and killed one and skinned it, but as a symbol that, like the herbivore Krishnasara, he wouldn't hurt a fly. He wouldn't hurt anything under any circumstances. So it's worn over his left side, so it covers his left breast and his left shoulder blade in back. And it's kind of golden brown in color. Now we have to talk about the hairdo. And all of this has meaning. There are reasons for all this. All right. Well, when we finish with it, I'll give the meaning briefly. But okay, his hair is long, shiny, and jet black. Half of it is flowing down freely over his shoulders and covering his upper back. Half of it is bound up in a top knot. And the top knot is directly over the top of his head. It's not like in the case of White Tara, who's got kind of a thing back here. His is right over the top of his head. And so it's bound at the top with a ribbon, then another ribbon halfway up, And then on the top of it, there's another smaller, beautiful sapphire set in a, now I don't know how you actually do this because I never had enough hair to actually try to do this, but there's some way in which you actually, I guess you fold it over twice and then you can actually attach a jewel to the top of your top knot. And so those are the other, so there's a ribbon here and then another one here and then the jewels on the top. So it looks kind of like a two-part top knot. Directly above the jewel on his top knot is the lord of his family, his guru, the Buddha Amitabha, who is also sitting on a lotus and moon disk seat directly above Chenrezig. And Amitabha is in the supreme Nirmanakaya form, which means he's got the shortish curly hair like the Buddha, and he's wearing the same robes as the Buddha. The only difference is he's bright red in color instead of golden or blue or any other color. And his hands are in equipoise, holding a begging bowl filled with the Amrita of wisdom and immortality. Chenrezig is sitting with his legs fully crossed in Vajra posture, which is shown on the Tanka, which it's what people often call lotus posture. In Buddhism, lotus posture means something else. In Hinduism, Vajra posture means something else. But in Buddhism, Vajra posture means what Westerners commonly think of as lotus posture. So his left foot is on top of his right thigh, and his right foot is on top of his left thigh. And behind him is another moon that he, like a back, like a chair back or a backrest. He's not actually leaning back against it or slouching, but he could if he wanted to. It's right there, and right behind him. Now, he is the embodiment in that single form of all of the Buddhas, all the Dharma, all of the Sangha of Bodhisattvas who have ever, are right now, or will ever appear here or anywhere at any time. And so imagining all of that as you recite it, you recite the liturgy. On top of the head of myself and all other beings throughout space is a white lotus and moon. On top of that, from Shri, appears the supreme Bodhisattva Chenrezig, brilliant white, radiating 5 colors of light, smiling, gazing with eyes of compassion. Of his 4 hands, the first 2 have joined palms, or palms joined. The second 2 are lower 2, but again, it doesn't mean lower like insects, are holding a crystal mala and a white lotus. He is adorned by silk and precious jewelry. He wears an upper garment of a deerskin. His head is adorned by Amitabha. His 2 legs are crossed in Vajra posture. His back leans against or rests against a stainless moon. He is the embodiment of all sources of refuge. And so you recite that as slowly as necessary, ideally in order to be able to do all the visualizations at the same time. Now, there are 2 things about this that need to be understood. Rinpoche said the first thing is that while he looks like a person, a real person, his body is not solid. He's not made of flesh, bone, and blood like us, nor is he made of substances like metal, like a statue, nor is he flat like a painting. He's 3-dimensional, vivid, and yet utterly insubstantial. Several analogies are given for this. Rinpoche gave 3. The first is a vase of crystal or glass. Like that, his body is hollow. It is a membrane of light. So that if you were floating around inside it, you would see the inside of all of his features. So it's space. There are no guts or organs or skeleton or anything inside him. But from the outside, it looks completely real. But it's not even a membrane of any substance. It's not like a balloon, which, while hollow, is made of rubber. In that sense, he's like a rainbow, which is vivid and colorful and visible and yet insubstantial. So he looks very, very real. When he's said insubstantial, it does not mean he's diaphanous or ghostly or vague. It means that there's actually nothing there, but it looks very, very real. So he's colorful yet insubstantial like a rainbow. And then finally, his actual location is beyond limitations because of his nature. And the analogy for this is the reflection of the moon in a body of water. When you look at the reflection of the moon in a lake, you see it. And you don't have to imagine it, it's there. You can see it clearly. But at the same time, that moon is not really there. And because of the way reflections work, that moon is equally reflected in a cup of water, in the largest ocean, in a medium-sized lake or a small pool. And each of them can bear the moon's reflection. In the same way, Chenrezig is equally present above each and every being's head. He's not more above one than the other. And they're all the same Chenrezig, and he is in all those places at once. The importance of not solidifying the image, Rinpoche said, is exemplified by all the stories of some of them presumably apocryphal, but all of them amusing, of what happened to people who did so. Like somebody who imagined himself as a deity with the head of a water buffalo. There are such deities. And especially developing a strong, clear appearance of the deity's wide horns, found himself unable to exit his cave because the imaginary horns were bigger than the entrance to an exit from the cave. So likewise, if you imagine Chenrezig above your head as substantial, as having a specific size and therefore specific weight and so on, you're going to feel that there's something heavy on top of you. Don't solidify in that way. Finally, each and every aspect of the deity's appearance has a very specific meaning. He's brilliant white because it includes all colors. In the same way, he embodies that wisdom of primordial purity that is the source of all other aspects of wisdom. To show, however, that his wisdom manifests in all necessary ways, he radiates 5-colored light. He's smiling because he is the embodiment of the love and compassion of all Buddhas. He gazes continuously with a loving gaze or glance upon all beings because he is active in that compassion. He is actively, constantly seeking to liberate each and every being as quickly as possible. He has 4 arms because he embodies the 4 immeasurables: love, compassion, joy, and impartiality. He holds a crystal mala in his second right hand to show that he ceaselessly and continuously leads beings from samsara to the state of awakening. He holds a white lotus flower in his second left hand to show that he embodies the wisdom which realizes the purity of all things. He wears the silken garments to show the richness of the wisdom as he has achieved the state of Buddhahood and therefore demonstrates the body of complete enjoyment. He wears the articles of jewelry to demonstrate that he embodies the 6 perfections. And each of the articles of jewelry is correlated with one of these, but we'll leave that for now. He wears a deerskin over his left shoulder to show that he is more compassionate, more loving, and more nonviolent than even any other Buddha. Amitabha is continuously present above his head to show that in essence he is inseparable from the Buddha Amitabha. His 2 legs are crossed in Vajra posture to show that while active in benefiting beings, he nevertheless never strays from the indestructible wisdom of awakening. Also, otherwise explained to show that he has realized the inseparability of samsara and nirvana. Specifically with regard to the top knot, the reason half his hair is unbound and half it is bound up, the unbound hair flowing over his back and shoulders represents that he never abandons beings, so therefore he will never pass into nirvana until all beings have achieved it. First, the hair bound up represents the fact that while he never abandons beings, he is never stained by samsara and remains in the state of perfect awakening without ever passing out of existence, passing out of reach. Oh yeah, that is on here. So we'll conclude for this morning with the dedication and aspirations.
Sonam deye tamje zegba ni tonne nyebe dana bamje ne chega nanje bala choba ye sibe sole drowa ra sho gewan deye jewo go sonam yeshe sozo Sonama Yeshe le jave tamba gonye tabara sho chansho semne Rinpoche mache panam jijuro je ba nyamba meba Kone kondam pe vara sho semje tamje dedan denjuro je ngendro tamje dado tom chansho samba kanda sayo Teda kunje manam drobara sho sanke rige dolde tambe haraja kunde dondora lengba sabje me jonde sanga sije chondara chabe daji. Thank you. Thank you.
Kala inare.
Miki hamo kare.
Chiro insare.